right, now that the weekend's wild card round has wrapped up, I want to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about our breakfast at the playoff slide, which has changed considerably since its inception. You'll notice that, just for the sake of clarity, we start this breakfast at the playoffs with the indication of which teams have no shot at making the playoffs, and we start making those predictions as early as right after mid-season. So we're talking, maybe the 9th or the 10th week of a 18-game regular season, which puts it all the way back in October, when we start, suggesting which teams have no shot, and then as we go from week to week, we add more and more teams until we eventually get to the playoffs, which is a little bit different. Now, the playoff look we've changed to when we start the wild card round, we have 7 teams from each conference that qualify. So we have buses for the AFC on the left, the red bus, and the blue bus for the NFC. So we have 7 seats, if you will, on each bus at the start of the wild card round. And once the wild card round is complete, each wild card eliminates 3 teams. So we'll have 3 sets of decals that we stripped from those bus windows, and we take their corresponding helmets and throw them in the trash, which is a new addition, the semi-transparent trash cans at the back of each bus. And we purposely made those trash cans a little translucent because as we go to the divisional round, we will add 2 more helmets to each trash can. We'll push the helmets on top down, but you'll be able to see which helmets are still in the trash, and they will be there. And then as we get to the conference championship, of course, after that, you will only have 1 person or 1 team per bus, but 6 helmets will have wound up in the trash can. So the trash can's big enough to accommodate 6 helmets, which we expect to have happen. I made a point of mentioning that because those who are still sitting on the bus as we get to the divisional round might not want to gloat too much. Hint, hint, San Francisco, because the divisional round is next and you play at Green Bay. So chances are you'll actually be on top of the trash heap after the divisional round is complete. That having been said, I just wanted to make sure you really appreciated how much information is on this slide, and I think it's kind of cute, so I'm proud of it. Anyway, thank you. All right, folks, welcome to the NFL Wild Card weekend wrap-up of the playoffs. We're into week 20 now. Week 19 was officially the wild card weekend. And we had some games scheduled for both Saturday, Sunday, and, of course, first time in history, we had a Monday night game. And we had some fairly interesting developments as we take a look at the matchups and go by what happened game by game. So we go to our website, Ob1gui's.com/sports, and we'll start with the Los Angeles Rams against the Arizona Cardinals. That was the Monday night game. We thought that might be a little interesting, but as it turns out, the Los Angeles Rams absolutely destroyed the Arizona Cardinals, who look absolutely pathetic at 34-11. They looked almost as bad as a team we'll talk about in a minute, the Dallas Cowboys. But moving on, we'll take a look at the Buffalo Bills in New England. Another surprising result, and I think the worst loss that Belichick has ever had. We had the Buffalo Bills at 47-17 over the New England Patriots. And folks, it wasn't really that close. It looked like basically the New England Patriots didn't have enough weapons in the arsenal to combat Buffalo Bills. They were clearly outmatched, and I would not say it's one of the few times I've seen Bill Belichick really throw his hands up and say, I mean, he resorted to trick plays and various other things to try and cut back on the bleeding, but it didn't work. So the result was pretty devastating for New England. We had Cincinnati Bengals on another Saturday game, which wasn't really that surprising. 26-19 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders were lucky just to get that far, and so you can really pretty much call it a successful season considering where they started for the Raiders. Now, the most disgusting game, I think, of the entire playoff weekend, the wild card weekend, were the Dallas Cowboys at home against the San Francisco 49ers. The score wound up Dallas losing at 17-23, but the game was actually much worse. Dallas looked totally unprepared and once again unable to match up, strategize, adjust, and play against a team that was competitive. The San Fran looked better than they really were. We'll find out next week when they go to Green Bay. But Dallas looked pathetic. And for a team that started out at 7-1, I think, early back in October, to be reduced to what they were on Sunday was just unbelievable. And all I could say to the Dallas Cowboy fans out there is this team has a long history, 20 to 30 years, of underperforming. And a lot of that is due to poor choice at coaching. And I thought that the current coach of Dallas was actually going to be better than he's turning out to be. And all I can say is, if Dallas doesn't get substantially better next year, then they need to go hunt yet again for another head coach. And the history of the Cowboys is great head coaches generally don't want to play for Jerry Jones. And that is the curse that Dallas has endured ever since Jimmy Johnson was fired. They've never really recovered, with the exception of Parcells, who of course eventually left because he couldn't stand Jerry Jones either. So the Cowboys have been cursed for 30 years of underperforming, primarily, I would say, due to the fact that no decent coach wants to coach there. Bottom line. So we move on to the Kansas City Chiefs, who put a hurting. It didn't really surprise me. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 42-21. And the final game, again, no surprise, Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Eagles 31-15 in a game where it really wasn't all that close. Now, we don't bother with the division standings because we don't recalculate them once the wild card round has started. So we'll take a look at the rankings just for the sake of clarity as to where we think ultimately the Super Bowl which teams will make it there. And the reason why we do that is we look at the rankings, which are much different, obviously, since they're not based just on the record, but they're based on this complicated formula, which we show up here. So we have the number one ranked team there, the Buccaneers, at 14-4, followed by the Chiefs at 13-5, the Bills at 12-6, and the Packers at 13-4, the Rams at 13-5, and the Titans at 12-5. And then we focus on the top six to see what the spread is between the AFC and the NFC. And we see that the AFC conference has both the slots 2 and 3 as well as 6, whereas the NFC has 4, 5, and 1. So early predictions right now would tell me that the NFC has the inside track on actually winning the Super Bowl. We will see once we get past the divisional round and into the conference championship how these ratings may change. But for right now, it's safe to say that the Buccaneers have the inside track for the NFC, and the Chiefs have the inside track for the AFC. But again, it's early yet, and I don't think the Buccaneers will survive having to play in Green Bay. But we will see. We'll follow up this with the projections of the divisional round on Thursday, as well as maybe a slight peek ahead at the conference championships. So thanks for tuning in.
Ooh, push that button.